I never imagined the first betrayal in my marriage would come not from my wife, but from the people she called her closest friends. My name is Ryan. I'm 35 years old, and I run a modest but steady real estate agency in Austin, Texas. For as long as I can remember, I've believed marriage should be built on trust, honesty, and partnership. But that belief was pushed to its breaking point on one ordinary Friday evening that turned into anything but ordinary. Jessica, my wife, had been different for days. Distracted. Guarded. A little too quick to put her phone face down when I walked into the room. I wanted to convince myself it was stress from work, or the pull of social obligations. But deep down, I felt something shifting. That evening, I came home early, eager to surprise her with dinner. I expected the familiar warmth of her smile, the easy banter we shared, maybe even a glass of wine together. Instead, as I walked through the door, I heard the sound of muffled giggles drifting from the living room. I froze in the hallway. Curiosity kept me still, but unease crept through me like a cold wind. I moved quietly, careful not to reveal my presence. And then I heard it. One of her friends, laughing softly but clearly enough to slice right through me. You should test him. Pretend you're done with him. Say you want to break up. See how he reacts. It'll be fun. You'll finally know if he really cares. The words slammed into me. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My pulse hammered in my chest, not from panic, but from the sharp sting of disbelief. Jessica wasn't the one driving this, at least not yet. It was her friends. They were urging her to turn our marriage into some twisted experiment. To reduce trust, loyalty, and dignity into a performance for their amusement. I knew instantly this wasn't harmless banter. This was a deliberate setup, designed to strip me of control, to corner me into some reaction they could measure like a party trick. I didn't storm in. I didn't shout. Instead, I walked quietly into the kitchen, filled a glass of water, and forced myself to breathe. Anger would have been too easy for them. Confusion, tears, desperation. Those were the outcomes they were counting on. But patience, composure, and strategy? That was mine. When I stepped into the living room moments later, I made sure my presence was undeniable. Jessica looked up quickly, surprise flashing across her face. The laughter stopped dead. I gave the faintest smile, though every muscle in me was tight with restraint. My voice was calm, low, steady. So, I said, this is the plan? To test me? To fake a breakup? The room turned silent. The smugness drained from her friends' faces. Jessica's expression faltered, her confidence cracking as if she had just realized the danger of what she was about to play with. Let's be clear. I continued, holding Jessica's gaze. Trust is not a game. Loyalty isn't something you gamble because your friends think it's fun. If this is a joke, it's a bad one. And if it's a test, then I'm the one holding the reins now. Her lips parted, but no words came. I could see the flicker in her eyes, shock, maybe even a trace of fear. She had expected me to panic, to plead, to flail. Instead, I was calm, controlled. Every second, the balance shifted. I was no longer the one being tested. I was the examiner. Her friends shifted uncomfortably on the couch. Their smirks gone. Their confidence replaced by the realization that they had pushed too far. Jessica tried to speak, but my steady glare silenced her. The weight of my voice carried more force than a shout ever could. Marriage isn't about games, I said, my tone cutting through the silence. It isn't about proving points to an audience. It's about honesty and respect. You let them convince you to risk all of that, for what? A laugh? Curiosity? If you can't see how dangerous that is, then you've already broken what matters most. She trembled slightly, her eyes darting between me and her friends. But I didn't waver. I stepped toward the hallway and paused, my words slow and deliberate. Pack your bag, Jessica. The room went still. Her jaw fell open. No excuses came. No apologies could form. Her friends shifted uneasily, their eyes wide as if they couldn't believe the prank had collapsed so completely. But I meant every syllable. For several minutes, I stood and watched as she tried to gather herself. Her hands shook as she moved around the room, the weight of her choice sinking in. The same friends who had been bold enough to push her into this were suddenly mute, no longer smug or laughing, just hollow with regret. I didn't need to yell. I didn't need to plead. My silence, my calm, and my resolve did all the work. By the time Jessica left that afternoon, the air was thick with a truth no one could ignore. She had gambled with trust and lost. The house, once charged with her restless energy, became still again. The quiet no longer felt suffocating, it felt like clarity. For the first time in days, I felt my dignity intact, my control reclaimed. Her friends sent messages afterward, hesitant, apologetic, but I ignored them. They weren't owed my time, or my words. Their game had failed and they knew it. In the following days, my sister Lisa stood by me, silent but supportive. She had seen how the so-called test unfolded, and she understood the restraint it took to dismantle it without raising my voice. Our bond deepened because of it. She recognized what Jessica had thrown away and how I had chosen to respond, with calculation, not chaos. Weeks passed, but the image of Jessica's face when she realized her plan had backfired never left me. The shock, the disbelief, the dawning awareness that she had underestimated me. Betrayal may reveal the worst in people, but it also exposes the strength of those who refuse to be manipulated. That night, sitting alone in the same living room where laughter had once plotted against me, I understood something vital. Power is not gifted. It is claimed, defended, and maintained through clarity and unshakable resolve. Jessica's attempt at a fake breakup had revealed more about her than she realized, and more about me than I had ever acknowledged. In the end, I wasn't the one tested. I was the one who passed judgment. And I carried forward with the lesson etched permanently into me. Trust is never to be played with, and those who try will find themselves facing consequences they never imagined. Do you want me to extend this into a multi-chapter arc, with aftermath, fallout, and maybe Jessica trying to come back? Or keep it as a one-shot, decisive ending?